All conversations have been about the Raiders and the offensive line shakeups, so we get a little bit of clarity from a guy who knows a little something. Matter of fact, a lot of something about the offensive line. That plus more on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 13th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day by way of the YouTube page. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up on Twitter as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. We'll close out the show hearing from you. A lot of really good calls, texts, even got a tweet. So we'll get as much in as possible as we close things out. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll talk about training camp battles. We talked about training camp battles as camp got opened up. But now that we're more than halfway through, and yeah, we're already more than halfway through 2025 training camp, we'll talk about where the actual battles are and how they may be different from what we thought at the beginning of training camp. That'll come up. I'll explain all that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, it's just news and notes of the day, and it really has to do with the Raiders and the offensive line. We'll jump right into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that's FanDuel. Football season's right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now. So off top, the Raiders got back to practice on Tuesday in the indoor facility, and their starting offensive line is what we're always going to be paying attention to, right? As soon as they have that opportunity to get out there, as soon as they go on team drills, everyone starts to move and get in position so they can see who's the ones, who's running with the ones on the offensive line. So left to right on Tuesday, Kolton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and DJ Glaze. JPJ returned after being off on Sunday. He went out there on Sunday and tried to participate, but as Pete Carroll told us after practice, dealing with a rib injury and a rib issue and wasn't able to muscle through practice. But he was able to give it a go on Tuesday. He did, and he was back with the first team again at the right guard position. Alex Kappa, who is listed on the depth chart, and they've dropped their second depth chart, he's listed as or. He has not participated. He hasn't participated in a while. And anytime that JPJ is not in there with the ones, Antonio Mafi, who remember the Raiders picked up not too long ago, a guy that's a Chip Kelly guy that went to UCLA and played under Chip Kelly, he ends up getting the nod at that position. Again, Kappa is slid in there right now on the depth chart, but he hasn't practiced in a while. So TBD on what's going on with Kappa. But again, Miller, Parham, Meredith, JPJ, and DJ Glaze, first team offensive line on Tuesday. So with that being said, Richie Incognito, longtime offensive lineman, former Raider offensive lineman, joined the morning tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920 on Tuesday. Really good, informative conversation. Good 20, 25 minutes long. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, man, I've got to get this sound. I've got to use it on the show. I definitely want to bring it to the table because, again, I just thought it was that informative. So I just grabbed a couple sound bites that I wanted you to hear when it comes to Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers-Johnson, consistency and technique. I use those two words because those are two words you'll hear from Richie quite a bit. So the first soundbite comes from Richie Incognito, just talking about Jordan Meredith, why he's in at the center position right now, what is the benefit of having him in at the center position right now, and JPJ there at the right guard. Here's Richie Incognito.
Yeah, I think what you see with Jordan Meredith is he plays with good technique. He plays within the rules. He plays with good technique. The one thing about Jordan is he's just a little undersized. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on with him and JPJ right now, but I think when you watch Jordan play, he's got real clean technique. He's undersized, so he knows he has to play with good technique. When you're undersized like that, you can't get away with too much because, you know, you'd be out of position and you're playing against big athletic guys. So I think Jordan, he's clean. He played real well at center. I think he's a smart guy. I think that, playing center is the most important position on the offensive line. The center comes up to the line of scrimmage. He sets the table for the rest of the offense. He comes up. He's looking to identify the front, identify the mic, identify a lot of different things. And when you're playing center, you need a center who's confident, who's going to get the call out quick. The rest of the guys on the offensive line have to have confidence that he makes the correct call, because once he makes the call, then all the communication starts going. And, it really sets the table for the offense. I've played in offenses where you're not too sure about the call, or the center's making a late call. And, you got other guys out there. I was a perfectionist. Everything had to be done a certain way. So if you don't trust the center making a call, I'm looking, I'm checking, I'm making sure it's the right call. And, it's slowing down my process. Then I'm getting in my stance. I'm worrying about, the front, the technique I'm trying to hit, stuff like that. So I think Jordan, he's a real clean prospect. He, at guard, he's a little undersized, but he does play with good technique. So he was able to grade out and play well last year. And I think at center, he's playing really well. And then we got Jackson. Jackson is a really talented kid. He's athletic, he's big, he's strong, he's physical. And the one thing I'd like to see him get technique. Going out there and running around and causing havoc is great. But, on 3rd and long in the 4th quarter, when you got to have it, you got to have good technique. So I think right now with the competition, they know what they have with Jordan at center. And it's all about Jackson, proving that he can play with good technique, snap after snap after snap after snap.
Good technique from Jordan. He's undersized, most important position on the offensive line. Got to get the call out quick and be confident. Clean prospect. That's who Jordan Meredith is, according to Richie Incognito. JPJ, talented kid, athletic, big, strong. He has to get better technique. Jackson proving he could play with good technique is what he needs to do. And again, I don't think any of us question if JPJ is strong, if he's athletic, if he's a mauler. I don't think any of us question that at all. But we all just, and I know I'm guilty of that as well, just assumed that he was going to slide into the center position because, well, that's what he played at Oregon, that he did really well, and he told everyone that he was the starting center, so we all just assumed. Remember before training camp, I'm like, yep, Colton Miller, he's the left tackle. You got JPJ, he's the center. You got DJ Glaze, he's the right tackle. That was solidified. All I thought was going to be the competition was the 2 guard spots. Little did I know that the Raiders coaching staff had different ideas, and you hear Richie Incognito, especially talking about Jordan Meredith and what he brings to the table, you hear why. So here's Richie Incognito on the fact that JPJ is only going into year 2, which, the youth part of it is part of the struggles. Check it out.
100%. I think he's a very, very young player. He played a couple seasons at Oregon, but started, maybe around 15, 20 games, something like that, I think in that number. But yeah, it's one of those things where I've been sitting back and watching everything on Twitter and following your coverage at practice and, going the whole thing in it, watching this whole thing spin. But I think with him, he's a young player. He's a extremely athletic guy. He's a hard worker. It really just starts needing to come together with technique. And that really doesn't click for young guys until you start playing a lot. And when you start playing a lot, you go out there and you don't have success, and you're like, okay, what could I have done better there? Oh, technique. So Jackson, he's going through the learning curve of it and the bumps and bruises of it, and he's been moved around. He's been guard, center, other guard. So, it's one of those things where they're trying to light a little fire under him, and he's a fiery person. We just need him to lock in, grow up, lock in on the details. I totally understand you want to go out there and smash everything you see, but to get to that point where you're pancaking people down the field and smashing people, we got to get you to play consistently, play after play after play after play.
Again, we forget that JPJ is only in year 2. Right? And he started out at the left guard spot. Then he went to the center. He did all that in his rookie year, and now he's getting some burn at the right guard spot. Very young player, started 15 to 20 games, very small sample size, right? Again, extremely athletic. He repeats that, goes back to technique and got to play a lot before it actually clicks. Learning curve. Played all 3 interior spots. Lighting the fire under JPJ. Those are the words of Richie Incognito. Lock in on details. Play consistently. Again, consistency, technique, consistency, something that you're going to hear from Richie Incognito. And look, I only got 3 sound bites from him. that I'm bringing to the table today. Out of the whole conversation, 20, 25 minutes, technique and consistency was the overall theme. And if you had a drink for every time he said one of those two words, you probably wouldn't make it the whole 20 or 25 minutes. I'm just saying that was the overall theme when it came to the conversation, and especially when it came down to Jordan Meredith, and Jackson Powers Johnson. So the final soundbite from Richie Incognito, as he was a guest on the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, is about the consistency that the team is looking for, the consistency that Pete Carroll's looking for, the whole coaching staff and the team needs. And honestly, JPJ, what does he need? How does he achieve that consistency that they're looking for?
Yeah, well, I think being consistent is the number one thing that you're searching for being a professional athlete, and especially in the offensive line. And what brings consistency is good technique. And all young players are looking to play with good technique. And it's one of those things now where kids come out of college and they're coming from all these different offenses, and some have been in the huddle, some haven't been in the huddle. You're getting a play. The big thing is, you're standing at the line of scrimmage in college and a guy's holding a poster board, as opposed to now in the NFL, you get in the huddle and we're calling two plays and we get to the line of scrimmage and we have this massive menu of code words and stuff like that. So for me, consistency comes down to technique. Technique, first and second step, pad level, hat placement, hand position, feet, finish. You have to literally go through and do those things in that order every single play in order to set yourself up for success. You can do all those things perfectly to a T, and in the NFL, you might lose the rep. So, consistency comes in practice, in walkthroughs. I talk to a lot of people about, we used to get so many more reps back in the day in two-a-days. They killed us, and, you could barely walk, but we were getting reps. And not only were we getting reps, we were getting reps in pads. So we had twice the amount of time to practice. And, it all comes down to reps. It comes down to repetition. It comes down to doing those things, first and second step. Where am I placing my hat? Am I hitting him with pad level? And then, it kind of branches out from there. Okay, I got my technique. Now I got to get the guy next to me down. This is what I'm doing. This is what he's doing. And as you learn and as you grow, you know what everybody around you is doing. When you're young, you're kind of just closed in and you're out there almost panicking, like, all right, I'm gonna just roll this guy off the ball. But the inconsistency shows up. Just going back to the preseason game, they struggled with TE stunts all last season, and that's what they saw in the first preseason game with the pass blocking, the tackle picks. The defensive tackle picks the offensive tackle, and the defensive end loops around. So, that's one of the things that they need to get cleaned up, and that's one of the things where good technique comes in. Good pass set, good punch, pass it off, get the eyes up for the looper. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I really think that being detailed about your assignment and then being detailed about your technique will help bring consistency.
Richie Incognito, again, just some really good, informative, very detailed stuff. Being consistent, number one thing you're searching for, right? All young players are looking for it. College versus the NFL, different ball game, sidelines and huddle. Repetition gives you a chance, but it doesn't guarantee the winning rep. And it's funny, when he was breaking down everything that you have to do, and you have to do it in this exact order to give yourself a chance, and still doesn't mean that you're going to win the rep. To me, it felt like a free throw, right? I always say free throws, it drives me crazy when players consistently miss free throws, because it's just repetition. Right? It's just doing the same thing. It's a routine. And when you hear Richie Incognito going through the routine of being that offensive lineman to be consistent, he's like, you have to do this in this order, and that gives you a chance, right? And it immediately made me think of free throws, right? If you do this same thing every single time, consistent with it, it gives you a chance to knock down that shot. More times than not, you will, right? And that's how you could tell the really good free throw shooters as opposed to the guys that are terrible, the guys that don't do the same thing over and over and over. Detailed about your reps and technique will bring you consistency. So again, that's just a few of the explanations and reasons on why you see a guy like Jordan Meredith slid into the center spot, because it is such an important position. And JPJ, who could be a mauler, right, and just wants to go and pancake everyone, can't quite do that just yet, because again, goes back to what? Technique and consistency. Once he gets that technique down, once he gets that consistency down, then, man, he could be like, he can be IHOP looking for all them pancakes, right? Whatever flavor of a pancake you want, he's serving up. But you can't run before you walk. You've got to be able to do it in that direction. I thought just hearing Richie Incognito say that really made a lot of clarity and made a lot of sense of what's going on with the Raiders offensive line. They'll be back at practice today, 8:45 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., another indoor practice. And then on Thursday, the one that fans can attend, that'll be the joint practice with the 49ers. That'll be outside, 8:45 a.m. to about 10:50. Doors open around 7:30. I've been saying 7 just so people get there on time. You make the decision. If practice starts at 8:45, doors open around 7 or 7:30, you make the decision on what time you got to get there. Don't ask me, Q, what time should I get there? You decide. I don't want to be the one to tell you, yeah, get here at this certain time, and then you can't get in. And it's like, well, Q told me. Nah, Q didn't tell you nothing. Q didn't tell you nothing. I will tell you about camp competition, though, and where it stands as of right now, as far as I'm concerned. That's coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is FanDuel. August 26th, it's officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. That is only 13 days from right now. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So if you're one of those that thinks the Raiders are going to figure it out, they're going to make it happen, and the Kansas City Chiefs run at the AFC West Division Championship is over, you can make that happen. Again, August 26th is the date you're looking for. Maybe you want to take an early shot on the MVP race, right? You know that's going to be a quarterback, right? If Saquon Barkley didn't get it after going over 2,000 yards last year, nobody's going to get that spot outside a quarterback. You can do whatever you want as far as crowning a champion, calling the division, or, maybe even parlay your division winners and make some dark horses. Whatever the case may be, visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now, because future bets is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. More than halfway through the Raiders training camp, want to take a look at camp competition. Competition, compete is that C word that I've been saying ever since Pete Carroll was announced as the head football coach back in January. We were going to get tired of hearing compete, 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 competition, competition, competition. But that's exactly what it is. And it's so funny that we're all good with competition until it starts involving players that we're like, wait, hold on, that guy shouldn't be competing, right? All of a sudden we start, wait, hold on. I didn't know that guy was involved in the competition. No, they're saying everybody is there for competition. Now, look, training camp with Pete Carroll is no different than training camp with other head coaches, where they have a good idea of what positions are going to be filled by who. But a lot of times in training camp, especially with Pete Carroll and company, what they're doing is dotting the I's and they're crossing the T's, and they're making everyone earn it. So obviously the first competition will start with the offensive line. That is not a question. That is not anything different than we said before training camp started. The only difference is we thought it was going to be, or at least I thought it was going to be, the left guard and the right guard. They were going to be competing. Who was going to be there? Jordan Meredith? Was it going to be Alex Kappa, right? Was Dylan Parham involved? What was going to happen with the guard positions? Little did we know it was going to go from JPJ at the center with Jordan Meredith as a competition to JPJ at the right guard spot with Alex Kappa and Antonio Mafi. And again, JPJ should win it. Mafi probably will come in second. And the reason I say that is because Kappa's injured right now. I mentioned that in segment number 1. Kappa hasn't practiced in a while. I saw him on Tuesday walking around the indoor facility. Obviously, we'll check again today to see if he's going to be walking around the facility or if he's going to get back to practice. But as Lincoln Kennedy always says, you can't make the club in the tub. So if you're not out there and available, you're not going to make the team. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on that one. We know that's the one that everyone's intrigued by, and that's the most obvious competition going on currently. Now, we'll move on to the running backs. This one was interesting to me. Obviously, Ashton Genty is RB1. I was thinking the competition was going to be Zamir or Sincere. Well, Zamir White is number 2. He's number 2. This team really likes Zamir White, right? He's already listed as number 2 on the depth chart. He's a guy that Pete Carroll called the hammer, right? He's a guy that has slimmed down. He's not as muscly as he was last year, where he got way too big. He was slow. He wasn't hitting the holes. He has come full circle and looks really good. He looks like the guy that a lot of us expected him to be last year, and for one reason or the other, matter of fact, multiple reasons, he wasn't able to do that. Now I'm looking at the running back competition saying, yeah, there's still competition in that room, but it's between Sincere McCormick, Raheem Mostert, and then Dylan Lobby. Dylan Lobby, I don't think is going to be a guy that's going to contribute as a running back, so I don't put him there, but he's a guy who could be a special teams specialist, right? There's 4 guys on special teams that you can guarantee will always make the team, right? The return man, the gunner, the protector, and one more. The return man, the gunner, the protector. Dang it, there was one more. Well, anyway, there's 4 spots. Obviously, I only named 3 of them, but I know there's 4. The return man, the gunner, the blocker, and there you go, and the protector. There you go. So that's the 4. Anyway, yeah, that was not great execution on that part by me, but, that happens at times. So Dylan Lobby has an opportunity to be that guy. We saw him return the ball in preseason game number 1. We saw what he was able to do there. But the fact that he can also go down on kick coverage and be very effective, right? Is that what something Raheem Mostert's probably going to do? Probably not, right? He can return. I've seen him, go out and return kicks in practice, but I haven't seen him as a gunner. Sincere McCormick, I've seen him try to return kicks as well, so he's trying to obviously make himself more valuable. I actually talked to him about that following practice one day, but it feels like Dylan Lobby has got the upper hand when it comes to that area. So I just put him as a special teamer. Okay, he's going to make the roster on special teams. So now do you keep 4 running backs or do you keep 3? And if you only keep 3, is it Genty, Zamir, and McCormick, or is it Genty, Zamir, and Mostert? Right? And then maybe you try to slide Sincere McCormick onto the practice squad. That's, to me, is a very intriguing running back battle that has shifted from what I thought it was originally to where it is right now. How about the cornerbacks, the outside cornerbacks? Matter of fact, the secondary in general, but the outside cornerbacks. Stokes feels like he's solidified as 1 corner, but now you got Darian Porter, who's the rookie, Caillou Blue Kelly, who, oh, by the way, was taking snaps and reps as first team outside corner on Tuesday, not in the slot, outside. And then you got DeCam Richardson as well. Darian Porter looks like he's in line to get that other job. I mean, he's the one that's been running with the outside, the outside corner with the ones for the most time. But Tuesday, it was not, something that snuck under the radar and we didn't notice it. Caillou Blue Kelly was out there as the outside corner, and he was making plays. Aiden O'Connell threw a pass that looked like it was going to the seats, right? Like it was no chance that anyone was going to get that one. And he skied up there and intercepted it and took it to the house. Really good play. Matter of fact, we saw 3 interceptions on Tuesday. Devin White came up with a couple of them. One was off a tip ball. One was just a bad pass. And then that one that he threw, Caillou Blue Kelly, came up with the interception. So just give some credit to Devin White and Caillou Blue Kelly. But that competition at the outside corner spot doesn't feel like it's as wrapped up as it was. It felt like it was Stokes and Porter. Now it feels like it's Stokes and Porter, Kelly, or DeCam. Right? It looks like there's any of those guys could slide in and be that opposite outside corner. And that doesn't slow down the competition at the nickel spot. Darnay Holmes is the guy I've been saying I believe is going to be the starting nickel when the season starts. You got Greedy Vance. You got Caillou Blue Kelly, who's listed 3rd on the depth chart in the slot, but as I just mentioned, was playing on the outside on Tuesday. So these guys are very interchangeable. And I think that that's what Pete Carroll and company are looking for. Interchangeable guys where they can just get the best dudes out on the field. Guys that can make plays, guys that are looking to make plays. I've mentioned it before. Jeremy Chin, he comes up when they play big nickel. He'll slide into the slot position then. So that's another element to this Raiders defense. But I don't think really anything outside of Stokes at one position in the corners and Holmes, at least for right now, is really solidified when it comes to the corners and the nickel, the nickel corners. So that's another competition to pay attention to. And then I'll close out with this one because I know a lot of people are talking about it. The QBs, obviously not Geno Smith and Aiden O'Connell, but Aiden O'Connell and Cam Miller. And no, it's not a real battle as far as I'm concerned. It's not a Cam Miller's going to overtake Aiden's spot by the time training camp gets wrapped up. When they get it down to the 53-man roster, Aiden's out. No, it's not that at all. I think Aiden O'Connell is definitely going to be the backup quarterback for 2025. You just can't put yourself in that position and open yourself up, right? If something were to happen to Geno Smith, and knock on wood that it happens, right? You can't all of a sudden just expect a 6th-round pick out of North Dakota State to come in and be able to hold that spot down and feel comfortable with that. Aiden O'Connell has starting experience. Aiden O'Connell has won games in the league. Has he looked fantastic? No. He didn't look fantastic on Thursday against Seattle. Didn't look great on Tuesday. Threw some pretty errant passes. But at the end of the day, I think that they have confidence that he can go in and slide in at the backup spot if need be. Now, that doesn't mean 3/4 of the way through the season or when the season gets wrapped up, that Cam Miller is not going to be knocking on that door. I absolutely believe that the Raiders are going to have to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster unless they just find someone that they have to get on the roster, on the 53-man roster, and decide that it's not worth it to have 3 quarterbacks, and then they take the chance of putting Cam Miller, waiving him and hoping he clears waivers so they can put him on the practice squad. I just think that someone will pick him up, right? Just because he's got all that college experience, 67 games starting at North Dakota State, meaningful games. Now, I know that's the FCS level, but there's FCS dudes that have made it in the National Football League. They're littered all over NFL rosters right now. Cam Miller is the son of a coach, so I think that as long as you give him reps, you give him time to learn the NFL game, he can turn into a pretty good quarterback. Does that mean he's going to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League? Not saying that. But I think at the very end of the day, what the Raiders did by drafting him was reset their backup quarterback market. So I don't think Aiden O'Connell's going anywhere right now, but I do think that, after this upcoming year, 3 years will be in the books for Aiden, and then they'll be able to either move on, maybe trade him, whatever the case may be, and then have Cam Miller and still have 3 more years left on his contract. But really, obviously, the competitions that I'm paying attention to the most, the ones that most intrigue me, the ones that I can't wait till Thursday to see go up against the 49ers, a different team that's not the Raiders, that offensive line, the running backs, and the cornerbacks. Those are the most intriguing storylines and camp battles to me going on right now. What says you? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. This year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. So many shows are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, Yahoo Fantasy is really doing some big things for 28 years of fantasy football greatness. That's right. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues. Got to make sure I get that word right. A great new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head privilege or private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more great announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts are off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start out with EP. EP in Seattle. He's calling to wrap up preseason game number 1 from a guy who was at the game and also has some Pete Carroll history for us as well. Here he is, EP in Seattle.
Yo, Q, it's EP in Seattle. Hey, man, I was at the game last Thursday. It was as frustrating of a first half to watch in person as I'm sure it was for everyone else watching on TV. Here's just the one piece of perspective to just beat this dead horse one last time that I wanted to just bring back to everybody's forefront. Let me take it back here. The year is 2014. A rookie, Derek Carr, is playing in the preseason against Seattle. Okay? Derek Carr goes out, and that's pretty much what won him the starting job was that game against Seattle. Pete Carroll does not game plan, scheme. I mean, we've already been saying it's vanilla. He just lets the guys go out and play. Derek Carr is throwing back shoulder fades to Denarius Moore over Richard Sherman, and every one of us Raider fans who were as desperate then for a good team as we are right now, a decade later, everybody was saying, in terms of all the trash we've been hearing from Seattle fans, oh man, we're giving it back, and we've just got the new king in the NFL. He just made Richard Sherman look foolish. and look at this, look at that, oh my gosh. Boy, were we wrong. As I recall, we also saw Seattle in the regular season that year and just got whooped. Raider Nation, stay strong. Don't panic. Pete Carroll lets them go out and play in the preseason. We've seen it. It doesn't mean much. The pre-snap penalties, the mental errors, yeah, those were bad. But Pete says he's going to get them cleaned up. It was the first game, and if you ever want to see anyone be rusty, it's in the first preseason game. We hit week 1, and we're still falling apart. We'll talk more about it then. But just don't put too much stock into the way we look against other teams. I don't care if it's first stringers against second stringers or first stringers against fifth stringers. They're just going out to play. Okay? With that, that's all I got. As a fan experience, it was, other than that a-hole in the stands, heck, man, we were sitting Raider gear, scattered across Seahawk gear, and everyone was really nice and friendly, and it was a good time. Other than that, go Raiders. Shout out to my girls, Kiyomi and Mika. Take it easy, Q. Appreciate you, sir.
EP, MD. I had to do it. We were all thinking it. As soon as I said EP, we all thought EPMD. So I had to go ahead and drop it. But thanks for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And you're right about that preseason game number 4. That's when DC won the job in that game versus Seattle. That was back in 2014. The Raiders did play the Seahawks later in the season. They lost 30-24. That was on November 2nd, day before my birthday. 11 years ago. That's wild, right? 11 years ago. That went by that fast. But like we said, don't want to overreact one way or the other to a loss, a performance, a good performance, a bad performance. You just don't want to overreact one way or the other. And I do expect to see more this week versus the 49ers, Thursday in the joint practices and also Saturday, but for sure Thursday at the joint practice. So, I've been saying this for a while. If they have a really good practice on Thursday, if they get a bunch of plays in, 70, 75, good reps in, and they think that they got the really good work in, you might not see a lot in Saturday's game against the 49ers at Allegiant Stadium. But if they just feel like they got slight work in and they still have more work to do, they'll definitely ramp it up coming up on Saturday. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Busta. Busta, what it is right now. Busta in Massachusetts. Look, we got EPMD starting us off. Now we got Busta Bust. Man, what are we doing? We're going all hip-hop here in segment number 3. Hey, Q. Joe Busta here in Massachusetts. I'll be at the Raiders opener in Foxborough. I'm going to make a sign for you. Hopefully you'll get some love. I'm going to try to be the first guy in the stadium to get close to the field, hopefully to get a few autographs for a few players, mainly Max. So excited for the year. So excited to be able to see the Raiders here on the East Coast. Thanks for all that you do. Raider Nation is better for it. Can't wait for Q's game. I look forward to it every year. Win or lose, it still brings me joy to celebrate his life with you, my man. Please try to give me a shout out. It's Busta where it is right now from Massachusetts. Look for your sign. As always, Raiders. That's Busta Bust in Massachusetts. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the shout out though for Kimani's game. That's awesome. Coming up September 19th or whatever game is close. Let me see. I got the schedule right here. I'm talking about whatever game is close. I got the schedule. That would be, we'll do this on the fly. Let's see. What game is that? September 19th. So that would be, that's not good radio. Okay. Monday Night Football, September 15th is against the Chargers. That's the season home opener. And then Sunday, September 21st is against the Commanders. So it falls in between. We'll have to decide what game we should do it the 15th. We should just do it a little early. I don't know. We'll have to think about that one because that's going to be a tough one. But we'll figure it out. That's a good dilemma to have, right? So there you go. Can't wait for that one as well. It's something I look forward to each and every year because, that's what we're going to do, right? I'm definitely going to celebrate my son who passed away but was born on September 19th, 1999. So we celebrate him each and every year. We call it Kimani's game. And I think the Raiders they've only won one. So it's about time that they win another one. So thank you, Busta. And I'll look for the sign. I don't know what the sign's going to say, but I'll look for the sign when the Raiders take on the Patriots on Sunday, September 7th. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got a call from Andrew the Raider from Livermore, Cali. There's definitely no hip-hop that has to do with that. But he's calling not to overreact and ask the question of what is most likely. So no overreaction, but wants to know what's most likely. Andrew the Raider from Livermore, Cali.
Yo, what's up, Q? What's up, Raider Nation? This is Andrew the Raider calling from Livermore right now, Livermore, California. Hey man, not to harp too much on a preseason tie or whatever, but I've just been thinking about like trajectory of okay, we had, preseason week 1, first half kind of sucked. But then, we still got a couple more games, whatever, and there's a lot of like calls where it's like let's overreact about it, but also like, hey guys, let's relax. Some different perspectives in there, whatever. And I was just thinking like, what's more likely with this team? Like, what's more likely? Is it more likely that what we saw in week 1, kind of one half of one preseason game, is kind of the ongoing like future state of this Raiders team, where no one can tackle, no one can hit their assignments in the run game, even in the pass game on the offensive line, just kind of just bad football all around, undisciplined, penalized, all these things, lots of drops. The list goes on and on. It was just a terrible first half, and it was a terrible first half. Or is it more likely that with the coaches that we've got in the building, like a coaching staff really kind of unlike any I can think of in the last 20 years. I mean, the pedigree, kind of from top to bottom all around on offense, defense, with this coaching staff, is it more likely that, come regular season, this team looks a whole lot different than they did in that first half of preseason game 1? And I'm just going to bank on the latter. I think that's way more likely. I think we've got a fantastic staff, and these things, they're going to take a little bit of time, but I trust the ability of Carroll and the rest of the coaches to get these guys going. And so just playing the odds, the likelihood game, I think we're going to be all right. Just something I was thinking of. Take care, Raider Nation. Take care of yourself, Q. Appreciate all of you. And I had a couple other things I wanted to say, but I'm running out of time here. So, hey, go Raiders. Andrew the Raider, out.
Andrew, thanks so much for the call. Yeah, I don't think you'll see a Raiders perform like they did on Thursday when it matters. Now, it's not about flipping the switch. That's the thing. It's not a flip the switch type thing. You can't just go from, that was a really bad performance on Thursday, bad performance on Saturday, bad performance against the Cardinals, and then also, hey, it's a regular season, let's go play some good football. It's about developing good habits, right? You play like you practice. So the pre-snap penalties, that could be cleaned up immediately. Good habits, not losing contain. That's football, fundamentals. That's something that you can clean up right away. Wrapping up, tackling correctly, no olays. That's stuff that you can do right now. Now, as far as scheme and stuff like that, I think that'll be fine. I'm not worried about that. But it's the fundamentals. It's the the small details. The pre-snap penalty, stuff like that. Developing the good habits, that should be going on right now, as far as I'm concerned. So thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Just got a couple more. Got a text from Refrigerator Raider. This is a quick one. Yo, Q. Are all the teams allowed to hold a mock game? And if so, why doesn't every team do it? That's Refrigerator Raider. Yeah, thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. It's been, 2 years in a row that the Raiders have held a mock game? And, yeah, they can do it. You just got to fit it into your training camp schedule, and it's got to be within the guidelines of the CBA. So if you're going to have a mock game, it's going to be a padded practice. So that goes as one of your padded practices. So they just have to be within the lines and within the rules of the CBA. And I don't want to say you can do whatever you want, but you can handle it the way that you want. They've got to have a certain amount of time that they're not in pads, certain amount of time that they are in pads, and obviously a certain amount of time that they're off. So, yeah, all kind of teams could do it if they so choose to, but everyone has their own methods to the madness. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got a call from Wartime Raider in Ohio. He's calling to talk about the Chip Kelly offense and what they need to have to make that thing go. Here's Wartime Raider in OHIO.
Hey, this is Wartime Raiders. I would like to check in on the show. Hey Q, I was just letting you know I'm a real big fan, long-time listener. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, and I give you your props on your perspective of the Raiders. And also, I'm from Ohio, so I watch the Buckeyes closely. So I know what Chip Kelly had his mind state of what and the players he picked to run the offense. But at the same time, this offense will not go if he doesn't have a supportive line to back it up. We definitely need a guard. If we don't have guards, this offense won't go. We need to put JP back at center and try to find a quality guard. I wouldn't be surprised if they even try, to make a trade for a guard or I don't know. I would even try to put, well, anyway, they just need a guard. That's just what it is. And I wouldn't mind trading a pick to get Howard from Pittsburgh. He's not playing right now. He's not getting a rep, so might swing a trade to bring him in. He would know the offense. He would run it smoothly, and it would give us a quality backup. You can even trade Aiden O'Connell for Howard, and that just gives somebody solid that knows the system. All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Wartime, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, the offensive line is going to have to be solid for this offense to go, right? The running game is a must. That is a non-negotiable. They have to have a running game to go, which, all go hand in hand with the conversation we've been having, right? And on top of that, you're talking about putting JPJ back at center. How do we know that that's not the best spot for him is at guard, right? If you have to have this solid offensive line that can open up holes and he could be a mauler, who says that that's not the best spot for him? It might not be the spot that he feels like he was the best, but how many times have guys gone into the league and played a certain position and then they switched and it ended up working out for the better of the situation? So I don't think that, you have to move him back to center to have a solidified offensive line. I think you just need to have the best 5 guys on the offensive line. If they feel like that's what it is, what they're looking at right now with Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and DJ Glaze, and so be it, right? I'm fine with that. As long as those 5 guys can gel as quickly as possible, get a little bit of continuity, and be able to attack the season, hit the ground running. As far as Will Howard, I don't see the Raiders trading for him. They could have drafted him if they wanted to. They drafted Cam Miller, right? So I don't see them having a need for Will Howard. Aiden O'Connell's not going anywhere. They're not going to trade him. And honestly, this is not to sound disrespectful, what has Aiden O'Connell done to warrant a trade? You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Like, what has he put on film that's been so great that makes people think that, oh, man, a team's going to want to trade for him? The only reason I mentioned that before camp is only if a team suffered a big injury to a quarterback and some team went out looking for a quarterback that has starting experience and has won some games. That could be the starting quarterback or the backup quarterback, and they feel more comfortable with the Aiden O'Connell. That I could see. If that happened maybe in Tennessee, that's where Dave Ziegler's at. If it obviously happened in New England, I could see that because that's where Josh McDaniels is at. That's the only real scenario I could see that happening, where they trade for him only with somebody who really knows him really well, and they need a quarterback because somebody or a couple people got hurt, which we see all the time. We've seen all the injuries happen in the National Football League, and that's the unfortunate part of training camp. So thanks so much for that call. Do appreciate you. We'll close things out with a tweet from Chris G. He's at Raider of the North on Twitter. Hey, Q, messaging you on X. As I live in Canada, this seems like the best way to reach out. Longtime listener, big fan of your show and the Raiders since I was little. Sadly, I'm only 27, and they have not been very successful in my lifetime, minus the early 2003 Super Bowl run. Anyways, I'm reaching out hoping to get your opinion on Action Jackson and how he played at wide receiver this last preseason game. Man, I thought he was electric and fun to watch. As well as the Geno flipping off the fan incident. It might be going out on a limb here, but I loved it. Seems very Raider-esque to come out with some attitude in an away game, even if it's preseason. I personally love to see that kind of competitiveness in my team. If it's kept together and doesn't explode into penalties on the field. What's your thought on that? That's from Chris G. at Raider of the North on Twitter. And thanks so much for the tweet. I do appreciate you. And funny you mentioned Action Jackson, Shedrick Jackson. I actually had an opportunity to catch up with him and speak to him after practice on Tuesday. Didn't have time to bring that conversation to the table, but maybe I'll get that in on tomorrow's show. Yeah, I think that he's right now very deep on the depth chart. I think he's listed as 4th as a wide receiver. So he's got a lot of room to continue to climb. He's probably a practice squad guy, but there's one thing you can't teach, and that's speed, and he has it, right? He shows that he can be a really good wide receiver, but, I mean, you're fourth on the depth chart is not really like you're going to be, you know, a guy that makes the 53-man roster, but he's got an opportunity, and unless someone else from another team sees him, I think he's a guy that you could probably waive, get him through waivers, and then boom, put him on your practice squad, and he could be a guy that can definitely develop. He's only been in the league a couple years. He was in Cincinnati's organization, and now he's with the Raiders. So he's still a young dude. I could definitely see them putting him on the practice squad and you know, trying to develop him for some years to come. But we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens with that moving forward. As far as Geno flipping off the fan and everything, I mean, that was one of those situations. I don't think that's the return Geno wanted to Seattle. I don't think he wanted that to happen, but I also understand the interaction with the fan as well, just because of the fan and you know, what he brings to the table. And I know a lot of people have said how cool of a dude he is, and he might be, but he wasn't cool to Geno. So, and Geno didn't take it like he was cool. So again, I wasn't there. I didn't make the rules. I wasn't, you know, on either end of it. So, it just kind of is what it is. I know head coach Pete Carroll wasn't too happy, and obviously Geno Smith and Max Crosby weren't too happy either. So there is that. But thanks so much for that tweet. I definitely appreciate you. I think I got time for one more text. Sorry, Ari. I know this show's going a little bit long, but we got one more text from Isaiah Raider in the 509. Yo, Q. First, let me thank you for all the great content you and Ari provide for Raider Nation. With Gruden winning his lawsuit against the NFL, do you think there's any chance we see John Gruden 3.0 for the Raiders? Even if Pete is successful, I can't see him being around more than 2 or 3 years. I originally thought they probably planned for Chip to take over, but we know MD loves him some Gruden. Seemed like Coach's plan was just starting to come together when the drama unfolded, leading to his resignation. What do you think? Does he have a chance to come back to the league, or maybe even us? Thanks, Q. As Isaiah from the 509. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. And yeah, sure, I could see him winning, you know, this lawsuit that he's got going, which, oh, by the way, is going to take years. It's going to take a long time for this lawsuit to go through. But you see he's been working his way back into the league as much as possible. He's part of Barstool right now. He's been showing up at different camps. I know that his name's already in the mix when it comes to college coaches. I don't think that the Raiders are going to have Gruden 3.0. I don't think that that's going to happen, and I don't think it needs to, right? I mean, I was a big fan of him coming back for Gruden 2.0, but I don't think that you need to see that again. And, you know, if Gruden returns, he wants all the power. He wants to be the GM and the head coach. I just don't think that that's a good plan of attack. Let another team go ahead and hire him and let him be in charge of personnel, coaching, everything. I think that what the Raiders have right now with John Spytek as the GM is the best way to do it. Have the GM, have the head coach, have some really good structure in place. I don't think that the Raiders need to go back to the Gruden well once again. Now, MD, to your point, you're not wrong, is a big Gruden guy. I just don't think that they need to do that. And honestly, I don't think Tom Brady, as part of the minority ownership and all the rest of, the minority owners of the team, will let that happen either. Again, just my gut feeling. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. That's going to do it for today's show. Went a little bit longer than expected. Again, sorry, Ari. Apologize. But, you know, that's how it goes every once in a while. So coming up tomorrow, we'll have more calls and texts. We'll have more information and more breakdown of what we saw at practice going on today, again, at the indoor facility in preparation for the game, not the game, but the practice on Thursday, the joint practice with the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll have plenty to talk about as we do each and every day. Until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.